Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now, we are joined by 10th Man, Refracted Curvature, Neil, and a whole bunch of people in Gilded, so welcome one and all.
Hey, good morning.
Hey, good afternoon.
Tuesday.
What was that, John?
Tuesday. It's the most evil day of the week. I don't know if you know that.
No, Wednesday's the most evil day. There used to be I Hate Mondays because of Garfield, but it's Wednesdays. So on a Tuesday, you're sufficiently close enough to the weekend to still have some lingering memory of something that you might have done nice when you weren't working. So Tuesday's okay. Wednesday, on the other hand, is far enough away from the last weekend that you've got nothing to talk about in the office. Far enough away from the next weekend to not really talk about what your plans are. In the middle of the week, so you're a bit more knackered, and you've got several more days to go, especially on a Wednesday morning. I mean, Wednesdays are much worse.
No, Wednesdays
The
are
greatest trick. Hold on. The greatest trick that Tuesday ever pulled is convincing the world that Wednesday was worse.
Now, Wednesday was the one convincing Monday. Everyone that Monday was bad, day after the weekend, when you get back and you see all your office chums and tell them how great your weekend was. People actually love Mondays.
No, the ballers love Wednesday because it's getting over the hump.
Right, let's do some housekeeping. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge that's a horizon formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
I don't like Mondays.
Well, Neil's
You
like
got
a
roped
minute.
on the housekeeping question.
Neil's a minute behind. He's on Monday.
So, any evidence
Black
of a
Swan has
physical...
debunked it in 2020.
Black Swan, indeed. If the Earth was a sphere with a radius of 3959 miles, then every distance to the horizon could be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet as laid down in the Earth curve calculator. And the Black Swan shows the horizon is beyond the physical geometric limitations claimed to be blocking boats and buildings at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. Therefore, the Earth is not a sphere, and the horizon is not Earth curve. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Nathan, if you think you can ram these 8 questions without us still having things to say about the first one, you're going to have to wait till Wednesday because it ain't going to happen.
Yeah, no,
by the
for
time we
opposite
get to
effect.
these other questions, I'll have forgotten what they are. It'll be like 3 months before we get to the second question.
It's okay. This is what makes the show great. If there was curvature to Earth, wouldn't it match the radius of the Earth and the mathematics that comes with that radius?
Yeah, I covered that. 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet is the maths that suggests there's a hill in the way called Earth curve.
Right. So that's what we want to talk about a little bit more than you want to zip through it right away. My goodness.
That's
So,
refracted.
okay, now see that's something. So what is refraction? And it doesn't change the actual physical nature of the Earth and its radius and where Earth curvature must be, which is horizon. They've stated it as we were growing up as kids in all the books that the reason the bottom of ships and buildings disappears because of Earth curve. And then you got on today's forefront, Neil deGrasse Tyson saying you can't even see the doggone thing. And you could be 150,000 feet and still wouldn't see it. So how in the world did they see it back then?
Well, that's the thing. The geometric horizon and the refracted apparent horizon exist below surface level in their maths. So it's not really a problem unless you think about it.
Yeah, but you just brought in the dingleberry. What do you mean below surface level? What are you talking about?
He's right. Oh, explain to 10th what you mean.
Well, if you look in the maths, they have 2 straight lines. They have surface level and eye level.
Correct.
And then they have a ball underneath that you call the dingleberry.
Correct.
in the illustration now, it has eye level. It doesn't have the one for sea level.
I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
But all their geometry is happening below sea level.
Correct. But that's
you
just
might
in the
not be able
math. That's not in reality.
I'm just
Well,
saying,
even
like,
in their math, it's happening below surface level.
That's what I'm saying. I agree with you. It's happening in math, in calculations, but not in our reality. I mean, you can have a thought experiment sketched out on paper and say, there it is. There's reality. So, well, that doesn't match my reality. That's a sketch on a piece of paper. You're saying that's reality? Well, it's got to match my reality. Well, here, I'll give you the math for it. I don't care what you give me for it. Calculations isn't reality.
Oh, you just passed it. That was it.
No, that was Adam's. I'll find it. Don't worry. I'll find it. It's what I'm looking for is the Metabunk calculator. Just a screenshot from it. I just can't remember where the hell it is. I will find it though. There's one with Craig. That one will do. Just can't seem to stop it. It's because it's 2 hours of just rolling 30-second.
I know.
know.
I know which one you're talking about.
Here we go. That's not quite good enough, is it? You can't see it.
Yeah, that void over it.
I've got the word void over it. I'll find it. There's another one. I've definitely got one in here. I'll dig it out.
How about if I go get it and post it for you?
A screenshot of the Metabunk diagram would be very useful right about now, because we can also compare and contrast how it's changed over the years since I got my screenshot that I'll find eventually.
Okay, I will post it for you right now.
Yeah, because initially, prior to the Black Swan, it was claimed to be accurate over water, and that was the best place to observe the geometry of Earth, as I recall.
You should be getting that. You should have it now, Nathan. Sorry, John.
Perfect. Right, let's just bring this up on Skype. Okay. John, can you, from memory, know that there's a dotted line literally labelled surface level and another that's eye level, like in the other depictions that we had previously? Feel free to just explain to 10th what you mean. I mean, it's obvious, it's depicted. It says surface level and the curve's below it. But yeah, you know, feel free to reiterate that point.
Right, and what they've done is they've taken the differential between eye level and surface level and the angle to the horizon, which is where the sky meets the surface, and they've created a differential that maps as a curvilinear function of sight. And they've taken that graph and put it below surface level and said that's Earth curve.
So they took a depression angle from a higher elevation than the surface of the Earth. So surface level would be the surface of the Earth. The eye level would be on top of a boat or on top of a building or a mountain. They take that depression angle and they create a whole new world underneath the actual surface of the Earth.
Yes, as depicted and demonstrated on screen now, as based on their maths that requires a surface level and requires a differential between your eye level and the surface level, as marked on screen, to claim that literally below surface level in an orthographic view that you'll never see is a marked with an X labelled horizon. Well, we've only got one horizon, and according to experts in these mathematics, capable of deriving them and creating them themselves, aka the rumpus, this horizon, the geometric horizon, the one that blocks boats and buildings, only exists in this maths. And, as John is pointing out, exists below surface level.
Yeah, so that's exactly what I said. You sketch it on a piece of paper, and it only exists in the math or calculation, not in reality.
Perfect. Hey, who just joined? Arwin and Adam. Hello.
Thing is, go, guys. Can I ask a question?
You can.
Very
go
good,
ahead.
John. Very good, John. Thank you for playing along.
Yes, thank you, John. That was good. Sorry, one deck. Third time's a charm. Go ahead.
It's all right, yeah. If the Earth curve is below the surface level, and in other aspects they're telling you you can't actually see the curve in reality, why did he tell you then you can see the shadow of the curve on the moon during an eclipse?
Nobody's going to answer. It's not. It's going to be pondered. Or did I have your line muted? I think I had G+'s line muted. Sorry if somebody answered. Yeah, they're assuming an R. They're assuming orbital motion. All the stuff we covered in the pre-show.
And they're assuming space.
Yeah, they're having it take place. Orbital motion takes place in a second law of thermodynamics violation sky vacuum. There you go. There's where that dentist drill is, you know, it's more useful than it seems, right? You can debunk orbital motion because it takes place in a sky vacuum. So while yesterday we were describing that particular proof with the 1-2 knockout punch of elevation angle measurements and the derivation of all globe Earth models from a flat plane, as the 1-2 knockout punch for globe Earth and flat Earth proof. Well,
that was my idea.
Thank you, Neil. In addition to that, we have a proof that we didn't want to put as a top 3, hence 1-2 punch, because it's sort of separate to. But I described it as a dentist drill, and that's gas pressure without a container, aka the sky is not a vacuum. The gas we breathe would fill that space if it was. So therefore, orbital motion attaches to that. So there are certain subsets that you can take out from gas pressure without a container. It doesn't just debunking space, debunks quite a few other things that have R values and such like attached to them, without needing to debunk an R value or prove that you've got an elevation measurement only capable from a flat plane. You can point out that the entire heliocentric orbital motion system takes place in a region that isn't real. There's no sky vacuums with gas giants floating around in them. That's nonsense. It's a violation of natural law, in fact. So what's that you say?
That's
Your
one of the
violation of natural
things-
law is orbital? No, afraid not. Go on, John.
That's one of the things that I used to do, and other people I know, was whenever someone would assert a flat Earth claim, we would take and put our conception of the model we thought they were claiming and put it in a heliocentric universe where it's flying around the sun, and so when you take away that idea of a medium for the Earth to fly through or orbit in, it's pretty powerful.
You know, but it's what one deck said is worth pondering a little bit more, because they'll take natural occurring events in our reality and somehow reify it, attach it, bring it in, and say, see, this proves the globe. For example, they'll say the moon causes the tides of the oceans. Then they'll take perspective and change that around. And what else do? Where they take a natural occurring event and then they need to make it match their model. So they'll, like refraction. Instead of light bending when it hits denser mediums, they change the Earth, give it 7/6R. I mean, they can't just look at it and say it is what it is. Even the mirage, they'll screw up a mirage.
Well, here's an example on screen now from you, or from Neil deGrasse Tyson via you, which is to say that their automatic assumption of orbital motion in a sky vacuum, that presuppositional model has been superimposed on a flat Earth in this example by Neil deGrasse Tyson. So he's saying that there's a lunar eclipse with a occultation of a flat disk between you and the moon. Now, that is superimposing their heliocentric orbital mechanics onto a flat pizza pie floating around in a sky vacuum. It's got 99% of heliocentrism already attached to this pizza pie that would create a flat shadow across the moon. Now, we're also assuming that there's a shadow being created, and that when we just take out the sphere shape from their orbital motions and heliocentric model, that we're going to replace it with a pizza pie and it's still going to cause the shadow, I'm assuming it is? Like, no, all you've done is carried forth all of your assumptions and superimposed them onto a flat Earth necessity for navigation. Because that's what we put forth. It can't possibly be an orbital mechanic, as you're depicting here, Neil deGrasse Tyson, on account of the fact that the Earth is navigated by way of elevation angle measurements. And your globe model, was derived from the celestial sphere that is a flat plane with the globe of the heavens above it, including the moon. So this makes absolutely no sense beyond your scientism views of orbital motion. Because that's what you are. You're a scientism believer, because they're the same thing. Heliocentrism and scientism are the same.
Yeah, but see, this is the same trickery this magician does when he has that beach ball of the globe and he smacks it and he says, this stuff flat. Well, what's he showing you? He's showing a globe. He's showing this picture with this little line as it's the occultation of the Earth on the Moon. But like you said, he's already got you 99% into the paradigm of orbital motion. So it's just like the beach ball, orbital motion. If you start talking, you're in there begging the question immediately.
Right. We're already assuming that orbital motion and occultation is going to occur, as it does in the assumptions of heliocentrists. No, I'm afraid not, Neil deGrasse Tyson. This is far less slick than you slapping that beach ball. Far, far less slick.
But here's the thing when it's one-on-one with somebody. Oh, wait a minute. Not only are you saying the Earth is flat and not spinning, but now you're saying that this shadow on the moon is not the Earth. What else are you flat earthers going to change?
Yeah, all wrapped up in a burden of proof reversal fallacy. Who's making any claims about what the moon is? Oh, right, you are. You're saying it's a shadow. You're saying it's occulted. You're saying the Earth's a sphere. You're saying we're on orbital motion, all of which is assumed. And what, you object to me saying, nah, it's turning red. I don't think that's a shadow. Blasphemy! Cast him down! What? It's just going red. I've looked at it with my own eyes. I'm colourblind and I could see it was going red.
Off with his head.
So let's move on. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Again, we're in their paradigm, but no, there is none. Everyone thinks there is until you ask them, are you moving? No, but they'd say we are. I go, who's they? Well, the people smarter than us. It's such a big Earth and we're moving, we'll never know. I mean, you'll never know. Neil deGrasse knows. He says a football in the air shows him we're moving.
Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
No. We know it's not what they say it is. It's not doing parallel rays, so they got to have it 93 million miles for their straight rays or straight lines of light, so that they can use the curvature of a non-existing sphere for the angles.
Any evidence you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
Can you have a gas pressure gradient without gas pressure?
No, it's a delta of gas pressure. First you have gas pressure, then you can have gas pressure gradients.
Well, there goes that argument and rebuttal.
Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth? Somewhere nice and cosy to get angles from.
Yeah, that's where their angles emanate from, the origin in their books for navigation, but that's not where the sextant operator is.
Sure, but is there any evidence that there's a molten iron core there when we presuppose
Well,
the
the
Earth's spherical?
sextant operator would know, right? I mean, if the sextant operator gets the angles from there, they can have some fire retardant suit, wouldn't they?
No.
Well, that's where you're taking the angles from. Wouldn't the Earth be blocking your ability to take the angle to the star?
Yeah, they're not though, are
Okay,
they? I mean, they draw a sphere around a central point, which would put you at the centre in a molten iron core, but you're still just on the surface drawing out angles to a dome-shaped representation in a model of the sky and its lights that they show you. That's all you're really doing. Light on screen now, you're just taking angles to lights. That's it. Of course, to take an angle, you're going to need a flat plane, and the flat plane it's depicted in is the celestial sphere model that you stand at the centre of. But that doesn't have a necessity to have a globe wrapped around you, blocking your view of everything, John. No, definitely not. In fact, that makes things very difficult for globe believers.
That's what I like on your radar picture that you have, Nathan, which is pretty much the celestial sphere with the position in the middle and reading everything around you in the radius.
Maybe they get confused when it says celestial sphere and they hear the word sphere and they automatically think globe.
I think that is as limited as that magic trick gets, as we've got Neil deGrasse Tyson's tweet on screen, and he's a very, very well accomplished magician. And as much as I demean this as a magic trick, it's transparent for us And I preferred pulling apart a much more nuanced example with that stuff is flat. You know, that was clever. That had so many different levels to it. This is just, I'm going to beg the question of everything but the flat plane and then put that into everything I've retained and stick it on a tweet because I'm so amusing. Now, I can demean that, but it's still just another magic trick. Not all magic tricks have to be as elaborate as, you know, having lots of smoke and mirrors and sleight of hand. Some of them can be quite basic and still work just as effectively. Sometimes the simpler tricks work best. So this one works on the level that it retains all of people's preconceived notions about heliocentric orbital motion without them really thinking about it. They have to think, what is this little Pac-Man looking shape? What's it representing? Oh, it's supposed to be the flat pancake between the sun and the moon, causing a flat shadow because that's what flat Earth would be. Ha ha ha. Not realizing that, well, no, you've just had a bit of brainwashing. You've had a little dose of being told how orbital motion's always true, even if you do assume a flat Earth. You're still going to assume it's flying around in a sky vacuum, right? The black area around this moon is sky vacuum, and the shadow is from a pancake in a sky vacuum. Yeah, you've retained so much stuff from this one tweet just by reading it if you're a heliocentrist, without even realizing it. So in as much as I can demean it as being very, well, just of a poor, it's just not as good a magic trick as that slapping the ball was. That was much better. But on the other hand, it's a throwaway tweet, right? So who cares? So it's still a magic trick. Always on the magic vibe, aren't you, Tyson? And this is just another example of that. So, yeah.
Well, how did they ever get the angles that the light was traveling in to assert the Earth was blocking the moon? I don't get that.
Let's move on. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Only mathematical.
Define what the word means.
Scientific evidence would be empirical evidence based on a cause and effect relationship established in a hypothesis and validated by systematic experimentation.
Define gravity.
Bending of a conceptual pseudo-Riemannian force space-time.
Then no. Things going up, things falling down, give it whatever name you want. We experience it in life all the time.
Okay. What about any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Well, you just described what the scientific method was, and it's something that you can have to observe a natural phenomenon. So if they look at a star twinkling in the sky, that qualifies. But all the other steps they can't do. So no.
Any evidence you can acquire an elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline?
One of the strongest arguments out there, much like gas pressure, can you have it without a container? Or the Earth is a sphere with a radius of 3959, then every horizon distance can be no further than 1.2 miles. So again, these three arguments, especially this last one, logic, facts, back the flat Earth, not the globe model whatsoever.
It seems the only people that want to argue you can get an angle from a curved surface are anti-flat earthers. Everyone else just uses the flat Earth.
Right.
Yeah, but John, you can have two straight lines meeting at a vertex to a curve, right? That's what they try to do.
Let's just
Now we're
repeat
talking
that,
about
though, John.
elevation angles. You need a horizontal plane for that.
You do need a horizontal plane for that, and you will and do utilize the horizontal plane we dwell atop in order to navigate. And as John has just pointed out, everyone else is just using a flat plane. That's how it's done. And your globe, which sits in between the celestial sphere and the flat plane you're measuring angles off, really doesn't help anybody. And it isn't utilized. Nobody's doing Haversine conversions when they measure angles to the celestial objects they use to navigate. Nobody does that. The sphere is completely surplus to requirements. Everyone's using it flat. The only people who claim that you would be doing that, because there are documented on page 87 of a very long and extensive, detailed explanation of how you use a flat plane to navigate, it gives you how you could do it if you wanted to spend the time doing this complex conversion that isn't necessary to a sphere that would put you in the center of that sphere, looking through, what, 3,000 or however many miles of rock. Yeah, it's a nonsense. So everyone else, apart from the anti-flat earthers, we're just dealing with a flat plane. Most people aren't trying to justify how spherical it isn't when they use it flat. It's just the anti-flat earthers that do that. That's why they're in the same pond as us, though, isn't it? Let's face it.
Yes, it is.
You're trapped here with
you
us.
say-
All of
We need
you.
to stretch.
You're just like us. It's just you, and I say this lightly. I was going to say they get promoted. They don't. Your Red Retrix, your Gem Pandas, your Wolfie 6020s, for the most part, they're not being heavily promoted. Your twonks like Simon Dan might be. But that's about it. And for the most part, they're just trapped in the same crappy pond as us, and Simon Dan who says he won't even talk to us. Right? Unless he's reading off his script. He's not interested. Right? Well, probably because it would mean he'd have to be bundled in the same pond. Maybe he's just stood on the edge of it looking in, dipping in with his fishing rod, taking out cash. Well, you know, more power to him. Good for you, Simon Dan. I envy you in that regard. But, you know, he's not in the pond, is he? Or so it seems, because he seems impervious to us, because he's not interacting with us. All the people who do interact with us are going against the heliocentric model. Because the heliocentric conversion from the celestial sphere model, that's a flat Earth origin. And people just accept that. They don't need to do any conversions to globe. They might still have a subsequent, separate to, globe faith because they're a Western world globe believer and have been indoctrinated since birth. Doesn't change the fact that the way the world operates is flat. And most people appreciate that. My sister appreciated it. She was trained in celestial navigation because she owned boats. And when I told her that Earth's navigated flat and showed her how it was done on a map, she nodded along and told me she'd done it. Told me I'd stood there and watched her do it before I was a flat earther. And you go, yeah, so you appreciate at a fundamental level that you have to navigate the world flat then, Faye? Yeah, I do. Yeah, I've done it. No conflict, no argument about it. That's how she did it and was trained to do it. And that's what we're covering. How the Earth is navigated. Flat. No ifs, buts, or maybes. So you anti-flat earthers defending this nonsense about measuring angles off curved surfaces, it's absurd. And everyone knows it, apart from you. That's why you're stuck here with us, believing that you're righteous and still believing in a sphere. The only reason you're here with us is because you doubt it. That's why you fight so hard. You doubt that you're right. And it terrifies you. We all know it here. We've known it for some time. But that's why you've been bundled into the same pond as us. One day you'll realise you were trapped in a pond with us. That's why I like highlighting it. Anyway.
Well, one of the things they like doing is drawing an angle to a curved surface whenever they're trying to justify how you get an angle from a curved
They like
surface.
doing that, do they? How's that geometric horizon working out for you there, Roofy? I read a little comment from you between yourself and Brian about a little trick you use so that you can use a straight line? Really? See, Roofy, that's bad news, given that Planner Walk's saying nobody's expecting to see physical geometry, and the Rumpus is saying that the geometric horizon only exists in the maths. And it's all well and good you extending the size of your sphere Earth so you can use straight lines, but in reality on a globe, you wouldn't expect to see them, would you? Yeah, that geometric horizon, how's it working out there, Roofy? Yeah, they're in pain. They know how they're having to fudge the figures because we're pointing it out to them. But if it was real, you wouldn't need to fudge anything. We'd just be measuring and navigating a spherical surface. We're not. We're taking angles from a plane. And it must be killing them. It must be very painful for them all. And we see it written all over their faces. We saw it on Gem Panda's face, on his fuming, spitting feathers, angry as all hell face over in Nottingham. We saw the pain these people are in. It's tragic. It's pitiful. Any evidence?
I'll tell you another
Go on.
another exact duplicate of your needing a plane to get an elevation angle and no other way is Airplane pilots, they know they're not adjusting their nose down for any curvature of the earth. It's called level flight, and their nose up position for lift on the plane, 1 to 2 degrees above the zero, the horizontal. They know that too, but it's almost like your sister saying, "Yeah, you got to use the sextant. You got to do it this way, and that's the way it's done." And you talk to a pilot and say, "Yeah, that's the way it's done." And say, "Well, how could that be if you believe in the globe? Don't you have to adjust for the curvature of the earth if you're flying? Don't you have to adjust for the dingleberry if you're taking that?" It doesn't show up in reality.
That conversation between myself and my sister was actually considerably more awkward than I first let on, because, to be honest, the conversation wasn't actually between me and my sister. She just was nodding along in the background while I was arguing with her husband. Now, as much as this isn't a pleasant thing to talk about, it's her second husband, her first husband, who had boats and motorbikes and lived a very fast, young life, did die young on a motorbike. And he was the one that was out on boats with, obviously, my sister. So while I'm in an argument with her current husband, who she's been with for many, many years, and is a lovely, lovely guy, he's not a flat earther and doesn't like the idea and braces against it like many people do. But it was just awkward for him when I'm explaining, no, navigation does prove we're on a flat plane, here's how. And as I'm explaining it and he's disagreeing and telling me how wrong I am, there's one person in the room who's trained in it, and me and him. She's nodding along to what I'm saying. So, very awkward. But by the same token, it's just how life is, right? Everyone's dealing with a flat plane. They're building on it, they're navigating it. That's it. That's how it is.
Yeah, for navigation, you need to account the Earth to be flat and stationary as well.
Indeed.
Well,
Any evidence?
you know, this,
And also, sorry, I was just saying also that's how pilots are trained when they're in the training phase to presume the Earth flat and stationary. I mean, why would you do that if it was a globe and spinning?
Yeah, got NASA documentation stating exactly that. That's how it's assumed to be,
Nathan.
because that's how it is. They want people flying towards a void that they think is there. If the Earth's falling away from them at 8 inches per mile squared, what's actually happening for a pilot is there's a massive area that they could fly in opening up beneath them. There isn't. It's all flat. So there is no void opening up that they could fly in as they traverse a curved surface with a pit ahead of them. There is no pit they'll fly into the ground if they're not trained. And it's very well documented with NASA headers that it's flat, because it is.
Nathan, the last point you made, some other points that I want to highlight on. So you said people brace against the whole flat Earth discussion. So we know the anti-flat earthers are in pain, and you described them bracing against it because they got to prove it's wrong because it's killing them, and they're in the same pit with us. The other one would be a normie, just a regular normie. Where would Neil deGrasse Tyson fall in?
What would he follow, did you say?
Fall in. What category would we put?
Oh,
the
none
Neil
of them.
deGrasse...
Oh, no, he's considerably elevated above the... He's not in the trenches. What do you think he is?
No.
He's a priest.
No, I know. No, that's what I'm saying. So what would you title that? A priest? He's a priest of it?
Yes.
Okay. So if Neil deGrasse Tyson is the priest of it, and the normies is the congregation, so to speak, and the anti-flat earthers are afraid that it might be true, so they go against what the priest is saying, against the heliocentric claims, in order to keep what they got real in their minds. Is that the whole thing you're trying to say there?
Yes, but us and them are kept very much out of the church. We've all been kicked out of the church building. We're never allowed in so that the normal congregation can be in any way poisoned by the priest. That would be Neil deGrasse Tyson. So we're kept separate. But so are they. Anti-flat earthers are also segregated from the rest of society in the same way we are. That's what I'm trying to get across to anti-flat earthers. You're trapped in hell with us. I just don't see it as hell. I can't speak for everybody because there's plenty of flat earthers who don't like it here. Me? I like it here. It's not hell to me. But it is to you. Fight the flat earth? Nah, peace and love, my friend. I wish you the very best. What's that? You want to fight me? Why is that? Because you are terrified how wrong you might be. Now I'm telling you how wrong you are. Therefore, you need to fight me. It's pathetic. Sad. You deserve our pity.
Yeah, I agree to that because the debate effectively ends when both parties are in agreement. So there's no point of contention for their existence other than to go against their own religion that they're trying to assert is true.
Yeah, maybe they should be renamed because they're not anti-flat earthers. They're prepared to brace against their own globe rhetoric. Now, initially, I said that's purely to defeat flat earthers. No, that's purely to defeat their own cognitive dissonance because they're in pain about how wrong they might be. So they need to come up with and justify the nonsense of their own deceit in their own mind. That's the very definition, pretty much, of cognitive dissonance. They're having to justify it. And it scares them. So they look for their answers, and when they contradict the original claim, it doesn't matter. It's an explanation where there's a challenge to the original claim. If we can keep it in line with the new anti-flat earthers, formerly known, maybe it will change, rhetoric, and we ignore the original globe rhetoric, or even reposition it like Simon Dan did. You and your reference frames are ruined? What? You've got a Coriolis 2 reference frames claim, Dan. You know, but if you can detach yourself so much from the original globe claim, you won't end up having to face the fact that you're in opposition to it. And that's what we're talking about with people like Katz and Ruhif and Rumpus. They're all in contravention of their original claim. Refraction? Really? Well, how are you going to claim you've got a boat being blocked by it then? Oh, you can't. How are you going to derive an R value with a straight line? How's that, Roofy? Hey, how's that geometric horizon? Magic trick, did you say to Brian? A trick to give you a straight line, eh? Oh, how I laughed when I read that. Oh, how I said I rubbed that right in. Oh, I'm going to rub in his little trick so we can have a straight line to an inflated geometric tangent point. How's that geometric horizon working out? A little trick, you say, Roofy? Yeah, share your pain. You're here because you're scared, aren't you? Scared how wrong you might be. Telling us how it's just a little trick to get a line that's straight. Oh, how beautiful. How lovely. To ask you how that geometric horizon's working out again, eh, Roofy? How's your membership? You enjoying it here? Fun, huh?
So, Nathan, aren't they, since we're using the analogy that we are, if they're going against the priest and the official claims of heliocentrism, it would be wrong to call them anti-flat earthers. They're really heretics of their own belief system.
Yeah, that's why they're here with us. They're just as dangerous. You can't be telling normal people that there's not 2 reference frames. Earth isn't turning underneath footballs to cause them to deflect into goals. You need to separate those people very much from the normal society that thinks that Earth is turning underneath and there's an effect called Coriolis as a result. You know, you need those type of twonks to be telling us how our reference frames are ruined because they don't understand the claim in the first instance. That's Simon Dan. Or they need numpties like this buffoon on screen telling us that there is no bulge. What bulge, he asked his fellow anti-flat earthers as they all shifted uncomfortably because he doesn't understand his own claim that there's supposed to be a bulge between you and things it blocks, called Earth curve. But these people are complete twonks. They need separating from society. Left to fight their good fight. Yeah, battle against reality. Did we cover all of the housekeeping questions? I think we've got one left. Any evidence of the R value, Earth radius?
No, I think you just twonked that one right there.
Well,
Nice
this guy,
section.
we
Nice
can
rant.
pretty much say that the sky's a vacuum, right, Ranty? We can pretty much just say that. Oh my God. How the week falls so fast and so far. So R value, anybody at all? Maybe Ranty will give it us.
It
Yeah,
varies
there
every day.
The evidence for the R value is elevation angles from a flat baseline. That's the only evidence there is.
Other than that proves Earth's flat and that you're measuring it flat and that you're definitely deceiving people into a belief when utilising John's explanation earlier with the differential between eye line and the flat surface level to create a tangent point. How's that working out for you, by the way, Rufy? Yeah, good. Marvellous, marvellous, yeah. Yeah, you can do that, but you'll need a flat plane to do it. So, I mean, you can conjure an R value from the flat plane we walk and dwell atop and measure and navigate, but, you know, it's obviously proving a flat plane before you derive the R value from that. I mean, that is actually how they derive the R value. You need a flat earth to do it. But that isn't really proving we've got an R value, is it? Let's be honest.
It is proving something. It's just not proving that.
Check it out. We're at 80 people watching. So typically we'd be at 100. So we're almost clawing our way back after lots of technical issues and errors and a new server and all the other things that have gone wrong in the last couple of months. We're almost back up to 100 people watching. Please share the show. Hopefully my extra enthusiasm will rub off on people and they'll smash the share button as a result because of the jolly good information that we're disseminating into the realms of the suppressed media that is Flat Earth.
Well, listen, if you can get an R value, then R values are representative of what? What gives us R values? What would it have to be for an R value to be real?
Well, to measure an R value in sincerity, you'd have to have something that's spherical. To derive an R value from the differential between the flat surface level and the eye line as you raise up, in terms of how you can create an R value, it's not really sincere because you're not creating a spherical surface when you're deriving R values and claiming them from parallel or two straight horizontal lines. Like that's just proving you're on a flat plane.
Right. So I'm going to get somewhere with this. So an R value could also work with a circle. It's just meaning the radius, right?
Just meaning the radius that you derive from a flat plane, or just being the radius of a sphere that you've actually got and is actually spherical? I'm not following.
Whether it's
circle.
a basketball, which is round and a ball, it has an R value if you take it from the center. It's got a diameter, the full distance. Or if you get a piece of paper and draw a circle and say, put a dot in the middle and take it to the edge, that's a radius, but a radius line is always straight. Am I right? In
Yes.
both cases.
Yeah, well, all cases, the radius is a straight line.
Yeah, all cases, but I'm just saying these two cases, for sure, it's a straight line. So in navigation, they have something called a circle of equal altitude, which requires a radius from the GP of the sun or star to the observer. And that's a circle of equal altitude, and that radius is a straight line. So they die there as well.
Yes.
So there is an R value on the flat plane because it's a circle of equal altitude. That's the only R value, and it's a straight line.
Right. But that R value has been derived and measured and utilizing a flat plane also, and gives them their equatorial plane if you take it from Polaris. So the area of equal elevation from Polaris, which just gives you what they call the equator.
Yeah, exactly. But again, see, we're not against R values, to the audience. R values work, but you got to have a basketball for it to be a sphere. And if you're doing it in navigation, it's a circle, two-dimensional. It's just straight line from the position where the sun is directly over to where the observer GP is, and that's a straight line. So here you have an R value on a flat plane. That's what I'm trying to get to.
Excellent. That concludes the housekeeping. So, as I've mentioned Rufy intentionally a few times in this particular show, because all of yesterday evening, Adam and Brian were discussing something that was incredibly nuanced in terms of a discussion point about how certain mathematical trickery was being performed when deriving elevation angle measurements from curved surfaces, which is impossible. So Brian and Adam went at it back and forth, and Adam went to a huge amount of effort doing some maths to show how the two systems would work or wouldn't work. Now, that's not actually been concluded yet, so I'm not going to put Adam on the spot in that regard. But it got incredibly heated between Brian and Adam and several others who were interjecting where they weren't necessarily welcome to be. But nevertheless, that's how it kind of is around here sometimes. But I just wanted to sort of point this out to the audience, that there's a certain level of disagreement, and it's typically not around anything that would point towards Earth being anything other than what it is, which is flat. It's more around how do our opponents deceive us and the people who are watching with their tricky maths. And in some instances, one person on the panel will have an opinion on how they think that's being done, and someone else will have a different opinion. And then when they get to the loggerheads of, well, let's see who's right, it's normally get out the graph paper and the spreadsheets and start scribbling, albeit under a very, very tense atmosphere. So, no pun intended. But that is just something, again, that I want to point out to the audience, because there's a kind of flower and roses subterfuge that people might see when they come to the live section of the show. You might get a bit more of it. Subscribe today, by the way, to my second channel if you didn't want to become a member and listen to the uncut and after show. But that's often where the rows take place, because I try and keep them pretty much under control. And they're typically about how ballers deceive and what their methodology is, or what the origins of the globe deception as a whole have utilised by way of a flat plane 99% of the time, and how somebody has perceived it in a different way, and how that road to deception and proving us when we're analysing it, because we were on the ball at one point, how that works. And that will often disseminate into arguments amongst the panel members, because one person's got an idea of how that deception's been unfolding since 100 years ago, say, and someone else has got a different spreadsheet that shows otherwise in this case. But I don't know, I don't want to put you on the spot too much, Adam, and I've probably covered enough of that particular discussion to not need any expansion, but did you want to add anything to it? If you're there, you might not. I haven't preempted you. You might not even be listening to me right now. Who knows? We'll see. He's not even here. No, Brian. No, Adam. I'm just talking to myself.
Well, if you want to see some bloodshed in the after show, bring up dropping a slinky from a building. It'll get real quick.
Is that because it's got springs attached?
Yeah, we argued, I think, for 4 hours one day about the mechanics of a slinky. Yeah. It was,
I could
it
play
was fun.
I could play a whole round of golf.
What was the context around the slinky discussion? Are we going to hear any more about that? Just the fact that it drops towards itself and then falls?
Well, it's the explanation. Yeah, right. Like if you put a slinky at the top of the building and drop it, the top will hit the ground at the same time as the bottom of it. Have you ever seen that done?
Yeah, I've done it myself. I filmed it as well with a slow motion camera. It's cool.
Right. Well, the center of mass explanation that we're given by ballers is obviously a non sequitur, because we live on a flat plane. So there's no center of mass. So trying to discuss what's happening, because there's a lot of things happening there. It leads into some disagreements, I will say, because, relative density disequilibriums, I mean, as far as Anthony putting it forward as a theory, is new. So, like the mechanics of how things will work within that theory aren't fully explored.
I don't know. How many man-made slinky, non-man-made slinkies are there in nature? How many things are showing that preloaded spring mechanism exerting its force upon itself before you see the effects of it displacing the medium it's in?
Right. We're not talking about cause and effect. We're just trying to give an accurate description of what's happening.
Oh, I can't do that. It makes no
it
makes no sense.
But I can.
Nothing moves at the bottom for a period of time. The bottom stays stationary and the top of the spring moves towards it. Now, maybe that's just my poor analysing of my own data in terms of looking at the slow motion footage. And you go, that ain't moving. Maybe it is just by a tiny, tiny, tiny amount. But as soon as that spring compresses, the slinky, it starts moving at the rate you would expect, probably about 9.8 meters per second squared or something around that.
Well, yeah, I'm sure that's because that is the fall rate in air, right? Objects that are more dense than air. That seems to be the fall rate. But I don't know. Just trying to describe what's going on there. Like you can say what you see, but that's really not, that helpful. So it's a lot more complicated than that.
Yeah, there's definitely a exception to the normal rules that we would observe in that regard, isn't there? Albeit with a man-made device. How do you explain that? That non-displacement at the start. How do you explain that bit specifically? Well, I can't. I can just like you say. There's only so much use to describing it over and over again as accurately as you can, right?
Yeah, but today's version of gravity is that gravity is not a force. So what does it matter?
Did you all go and
Like I
subscribe
said,
to
we're not-
Rachie?
we're
Did you all check out a video, by the way? I know we discussed it yesterday. 100 viewers! Yeah, we're back on track. God, I'm glad this computer's staying alive. It's building the audience back up where it was killed off for a couple of months. Thank you to all who shared the show. I really appreciate it.
Congrats. What were
Yeah,
you going to say, John?
I did
about
watch
that?
Richie.
Go ahead, Jorge. Sorry, Tent. What do you reckon?
No,
Embarrassing,
I did,
eh?
yeah. I liked it, yeah, and I subscribed to her, yeah.
Yeah, the guy didn't get a plug out of me. I didn't mention his channel name, so. But either way, yeah, if you check out Rachie's channel, Rachie 00000. So check out her YouTube channel where she's doing an admirable job of pummeling, and I do mean pummeling in the best possible way, some numpties that are out there on the anti-flat Earth side, and she does a really good job of it. So yeah, more power to you, Rachie. You're doing a great job. Keep it up.
But back to
Right.
the
Well done.
subject.
Nate-
Back to the subject. Go on.
Go on, Jorge.
Me, Dave. Just a quick question because somebody was asking me yesterday: is the 3 Bitcoin challenge still on, where people come onto your show to prove that they live on a globe? And how do
don't-
they go about?
Officially, I
doing
don't
that?
know. I would assume so, but I don't know, and that's because I didn't think I'd end up talking about this right now. Because of Dave Weiss's association or close associations with people like Bob and Jaron, I have very intentionally steered clear of him. I have been in communication with him to a certain extent, but I've kept clear of him mainly because he doesn't deserve to be embroiled in any kind of nonsense between Jaron and myself or Bob and myself. He doesn't deserve that. So I've intentionally tried to keep him very clear of that and dissuade others from trying to drag him into it, which they've done on multiple occasions. It's just not fair on Dave. The guy's a good guy. One of the best, in fact. So, I've got nothing against Dave Weiss, and I don't want him dragged into any nonsense. Regardless of who's right, regardless of where in the past he might have tried to step in where he felt I was in the wrong or they were in the wrong, it doesn't matter. In this instance, Dave doesn't need to be dragged into it. He's too good a person to have his, to be dragged into any kind of nonsense that's internal. So, I hope I've made that clear in the past. I know this is nothing new to anybody who's on the panel. But yeah, as far as I'm concerned, Dave needs to be left alone by me until everything settles, the dust all settles, and then, I'll hit him up. Not that I haven't hit him up, I have mentioned things like this, to him directly. So yeah. So from that perspective, I don't really know. I haven't kept in as close a contact with Dave Weiss recently, I'll be honest.
Back to things falling. So if gravity is not a force, where do we go with that?
Where do we go with that? I don't go anywhere with that. I don't need a force when things are going up. Like,
No,
Yes.
that's not what I'm saying. Okay, let me rephrase it. So pedantic sometimes. All right, so here we go. Since they say gravity is not a force anymore, but it's the bending of space-time, where do they go with that, with the slinky or any other thing that's falling and hitting the ground? And where do we go with that change in definition of gravity?
No center of mass.
Okay. What's mass?
you're putting this burden on him, like you told me I was being pedantic for stopping you from doing.
Well, you're not talking. He's the only one. I want to ask him what he meant by mass. Is he referencing mass in the sense of mass attract mass? When the show is talking about its There isn't quite a real good definition for mass. It's mole at best. So the whole point is clarity for conversation. Since they changed gravity from mass attracts mass, whatever that is, to it's no longer a force, but what's happening is space-time around you is bending. And that only exists in the math and calculations, not in anything else that we can touch, see, or feel.
Well, the reason I brought up the slinky, it has to do with what was said about the show and us being an echo chamber. It wasn't necessarily to give a description of what's going on. I was just pointing out that, rows and arguments between us are like a constant thing.
Yeah. No, I got
I mean?
that, John. I
No,
got
they're
that.
not. You're just both being silly.
I'm-
Adam, did you want to have a word before the end of the live show? By the way, shout out to the chat. I love the fact that Dave Weiss immediately gets loads of love. That's how it should be. And also, thank you, Divergent Droid, for spamming Death's channel, Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app. So yeah, check it out. Anyway.
Yep. I've kind of missed most of the show, I'm afraid. I've been working, so I've heard bits and bobs. Good, healthy, heated discussion leads to discoveries.
A lot of work, though, for you,
Well,
personally.
Yeah, but that unfortunately is if I get set a little puzzle, my mind wouldn't rest until I'd solved it. I wouldn't have been going to bed until I'd solved it and that. And yeah, so it's an easier way to relax is to put the puzzle to bed. But hopefully we can use that. Brian's claim, we can then analyse it and compare it to the two. And then, I think the bit I did earlier, it's funny, all this arguing is not over the nature of the Earth. It's arguing about how the anti-flat earthers are lying and deceiving to us and the general public. It's kind of what we're arguing on. No, they're lying this way. No, they're lying that way. Interesting, and that's where the researchers ended up going.
Did you read the message in response to Brian's logic from Ruhif?
Yeah, interesting, isn't it? That's what Brian's accused him of doing that. And that's what I said last night as well. I don't know if it makes a difference. If you're just drawing one line, it does make a difference there. And this is the part of Brian's presentation, which if that's what he's doing, then it's so perverted, because we were saying the distance between the oil rigs will expand as well. So if what you do is apply a 7/6R to the land, so either it's Ruth is starting to demonstrate that he doesn't really understand this properly, or he's not bothered about the implications of changing distances just so that he can stretch the Earth instead of bend light. So, but we'll get to the bottom of it. But yeah, it looks like Ruth is just like roofing himself, really, didn't he, with a straight admission that he's cheating. And using numbers that basically are fundamentally incorrect. Because if you do that, like I said, even your distance to the objects changes. So
Why would you label it a trick?
what's a deceit? Or, isn't it?
It's just a handy trick. End quote, Ruhif. With that, I'm going to say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley programming streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So a massive thank you to all you smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. Another massive thank you to today's Gilded and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either programming stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What was that? What a lovely day!